Alert from calendar. 50 hoops.
Bishop Godby.
All wise God, we thank you for the privilege to partake in this moment. It is your grace and your mercy that has gifted us with the privilege to see your mind in the earth through these wonderful individuals that will be celebrated. We ask that your hand would rest upon this moment, that your presence would permeate through every place and to every person who watches. We ask your blessings now upon this moment. In Jesus' name we ask it all. Amen.
Thank you, Bishop Godby. First, we want to thank our sponsors. Some have supported 50 Hoops since we began, others for over 15 years. Genentech, Gilead, Amgen, Janssen, Bristol Myers Squibb, and Takeda Oncology. Let's give a virtual applaud for them making these events possible. After 23 years, 50 Hoops will transition our national events to our 50 Hoops Legends. These legends, some have been with us for over 2 decades, have worked with 50 Hoops live and produced over 100 patient education events. We've partnered with major cancer centers, churches, large and small. All have answered the call to produce events based upon 50 Hoops template, from dinner lectures to community advocacy site training for doctors and clinical researchers. Today, we recognize and salute these legends.
Today, we not only transition 50 Hoops into their hands, we also transition these outstanding individuals and organizations from 50 Hoops network of coordinators to 50 Hoops legends. Each is a legend in their own right. Each legend can stand alone in conducting powerful and effective virtual and live workshops that replicate 50 Hoops events.
It is our pleasure to bring you this premiere today. In fact, we'll bring you over a dozen premieres this year, each highly unique and individual to the legend presenting them. Yet, each clearly synchronized with the 50 Hoop style we've become popular for over the years. Prostate Cancer 101, cancer conferences and health fairs, African Americans in clinical trials, community advocacy matchmaking, mobile cancer conferences and workshops, navigating cancer in the corona zone, and our popular Fabulous 50 to Sexy at 60.
Today, we will be celebrating our graduates, Miss Valarie Worthy and Mr. Tim Upshaw.
Valarie Worthy. Valarie was introduced to us by the late super legend, Mrs. Ruth Webster. In 2015, we revisited Raleigh-Durham again after 3 years. Valarie was the first person we met, along with legend Cornell Wright, who's with the Office of Minority Health and Health Disparities for North Carolina's DHHS. They took us for soul food, and as you know, a meal around a table of soul food bonds Black people like no other. We were instantly in love with her. Valarie is kind, generous, forgiving, humble. She says what she means, but she's never mean about what she says. She's founded at least 2 nonprofit breast support organizations serving Durham. And because she's a survivor, she's passionate to share breast cancer education. An active and committed member to the River Church led by Bishop Ronald L. Godby, Val's a legend in every sense of the word.
Mr. Tim Upshaw, soon to be Dr. Timothy Upshaw, has been with 50 Hoops since our 3rd year. We met Tim almost at the beginning of his illustrious career, leading over 2,000 men a year to get their prostate PSA throughout the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Tim became a member of the 50 Hoops Board of Directors only a few years ago. As we've seen Tim grow through the years and watch his passion helping our African American men and communities, we're very proud of someone we could call our son. Living in the DFW area where 50 Hoops is based, he's always there for 50 Hoops, whether it's picking up a national speaker at the airport, attending an important event on our behalf, or simply calling to see how Ed and Pat are doing. We love this man and are so proud to call him a legend because he truly exemplifies the character, commitment, and dedication to our community that a 50 Hoops legend needs.
And because of you, Miss Valarie Worthy, Mr. Timothy Upshaw, 50 Hoops is celebrating 23 years as a unique African American nonprofit patient and medical education organization that has moved to an unprecedented level of achievement. Because of you, to have among us someone like you with unmatched commitment and dedication to African American patients and communities within your power to change and to influence. You are indeed a legend, Miss Valarie Worthy, Mr. Timothy Upshaw.
And now, as founders of 50 Hoops, we will officially ask you to turn your tassel from right to left, signifying first your right to be a national legend, both in your community and nationally, and to the left, to represent a new chapter of our continued commitment to service to your church, your community, and from henceforth, African American communities throughout the nation. And today, for utilizing 50 Hoops replications in your outreach annually. Legends, please turn your tassel.
Let the commencement event begin. Timothy? They didn't hear anything we said. Did they hear us?
Can't hear you talking.
We can't hear you.
Still can't hear you.
Tim,
Can you unmute him? Javen?
Yes, ma'am. He is unmuted.
okay, Tim.
Turn your sound up.
Hey, you. Mama's on her way.
We're going to give him a minute.
So at the bottom of your screen, Mr. Upshaw, there is a button where you unmute and mute. Right next to that button, or on the button, is a little arrow. If you click up on it, you can change your input source, like your microphone. And I think that's what might be your computer might have been switched. So
We'll go, Valarie. Tim, if you can't introduce her, we have a bio and we want her to go ahead and get started if she can. We'd love for you to introduce her. Okay. Valarie, would you like to begin by making a statement?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Can you all hear me? Okay. So this is just an exciting moment. Just listening to Pat and Ed talk about our introduction, how we met, how we sat around a table, like we do out in the country, and just shared. And it was so important to me to make sure that I knew your hearts so that we can move forward. But none of this would be possible without the River Church and Bishop Godby. I've been in a lot of churches in my life, but never have I had a pastor or bishop to literally welcome me and welcome me to take care of the community and the church. And that's been so rewarding for me. When I was diagnosed with breast cancer, I thought I had the plan to how God should heal me. And then when it didn't work out, I asked God why didn't it work out my way? And he said, where would my testimony be? So I thought my testimony was just talking to people individually. I had no clue that it meant talking to hundreds and hundreds of people and meeting people around the world. My dear friend Ricky and Mo, and it's just amazing. I cannot take anything for this journey because it has put me in places that otherwise I would not have been. It has encouraged me to dig deeper, to reach further into our communities. And that's why I'm so excited about this next phase of the program, because you're going to get to meet people that actually are doing the work, like real folks, not the people that hide behind the papers, but the people that take the pulse of the community. And then they listen to the community and they make a difference. So moving forward, Pat and Ed, my plan is to do what we did at the river, to replicate it in small communities. Um, with the guidance of the River Church, with touch, we're going to go to these places where no one thinks about, where they're overlooked, where the cancer mortality rates are high. We're going to do that. Then we're going to go into churches that don't have health ministries and help them to help have health ministries. And then Bishop Godby and I are going to go out to some of these rural areas and we're going to talk to pastors and we're going to tell them that they too can make a difference in their respective communities. And I think when we accomplish all that, that'll be pretty good. But I think that's a good start. And I am, again, just so grateful. I see Portia, who's now the president of Sisters Network. I appreciate you and all of your support. Antonio is in Atlanta and he tuned in. I'm just loving this right now because these are people that have been in my life. And I thought I saw my brothers somewhere around. If it wasn't for him and God, I probably wouldn't be alive. So this is just such a moment for me. And I am so happy to share this with each one of you guys. And I can't wait until we start our next program. So thanks again. Thanks, Pat. All of your sponsors, Pat. Thanks them for all that they've done. So we're ready to move on to our next phase of the program. So is there anybody else we need to let in? Are we good, Javen?
Val, you just run the program. We got this.
All right. Okay. All right. So again, welcome everybody. That you took your Friday. I mean, you could be doing anything like going to the movies, going out to eat. I mean, just chilling. But at 5:30, you're spending time with us. That is cool. That's friendship. That's relationship. That is understanding the community and your commitment to the community. So again, I just thank everybody for just being here. I feel the love. I feel the support. Bishop Godby, could you lead us into prayer?
Father, we are so blessed to be a part of this moment and just to see your heart and to witness what we can expect for the future, and it provides hope. And so we thank you for 50 Hoops and for all that it does for its community. We thank you for all who are present, and we ask your continued blessings upon this moment. In Jesus' name we ask it all. Amen.
Amen. So it is my pleasure to introduce our MC, Carmen Thompson. Carmen and I, oh gosh, we go way back. We never thought our paths would cross. I met Carmen at Wachovia Bank, and you know it's not a Wachovia anymore, y'all. But so that tells you how long that our relationship has been. But Carmen and I go to the River Church together, and we work a lot together, not only in the church but in the community. So when I thought about having an Oprah Winfrey, hey, I thought about Carmen because we love her. So I'm going to tell you just a little bit about Carmen. Carmen is the owner and chief consultant of Accentuate Leadership and Consulting, LLC, where the focus is to enhance the business strategy of their clients by offering leadership and performance consultation. Carmen has a master's and she's also has certification in human resources. Carmen is like our motivator when it comes to exercise and running. She's an avid runner. She's completed more than 15 half marathons. Can y'all believe that? Across the United States. And when she's not racing and biking and hiking, she's very active in the community. And she enjoys spending time with her family, with her grandson, and of course with the River Church. So may I introduce to you all Carmen Thompson.
Thank you so much, Valarie Worthy. Thank you for having me. Congratulations to yourself and to Mr. Upchurch, the other graduate. This is such a pleasure to be with you this evening. It's such an honor for me to be with you. So thank you for allowing me to be with you. So this evening is going to be a fun and informative evening. I learned a lot just preparing for the evening, and so I have no doubt that you will as well. Not only is it going to be an afternoon of learning, but you'll also have an opportunity to be tested and quizzed and understand what your knowledge is. But no pressure, because we're not going to be sharing any scores. It's really just an opportunity to understand, what do you know, and to broaden your understanding about our topic tonight about cancer and COVID, particularly triple negative breast cancer. So if you don't know what that is yet, you will. And so before I tell you about the speakers that are going to be with us this evening, let's get started with our first pop quiz. So Javen, if you will prepare the poll, we have a couple of questions for you, and they are multiple choice. So there is a chance that you may get those answers right. Take a second, read through those questions, and just select the answer that you feel most comfortable with as being the most correct answer. No pressure. Give you a minute or so to read through those. If you would, answer all 5 questions. And Javen, just give me a heads up once you feel that everyone has had an opportunity to answer. Let's give about 10 more seconds or so to answer your questions. Okay, Javen, if you will, close the poll for us. And I believe that we're going to share results, right? So once those results have an opportunity to calculate, Javen's going to share those. Okay. So triple negative breast cancer is associated with, most of you said all of the above, high frequency of spread to other areas of the body, to other organs of the body. Most of you don't know someone with triple negative breast cancer, to your knowledge. Most of you don't, but several of you do. 38% of you do. In terms of coronavirus, the highest percentage was 42%, that none of the above. None of you believe any of those multiple choice answers. So that's good news. Diet and exercise may help lower your risk of cancer and other diseases. And 92% of you said the answer was yes. So many of our medical professionals that are here this evening, I'm sure they're glad to see a lot of these results. Naturopathic doctor. I hope I'm pronouncing it right, because that's a new word for me, as it probably is for many of you. And 100% of you understand that to be someone who is educated and trained in understanding and identifying underlying causes of illnesses and creating treatment plans to address them. So we're going to learn more about, and we're going to hear from an actual naturopathic doctor this evening. So this is going to be a great time of learning. So thank you for sharing those results to our poll, and thank you for participating in our quick pop quiz this evening. Thank you for sharing those results, Javen. We're going to move right on into the program, because I told you you're going to learn a lot this evening. And so the first 2 guest speakers that are going to address us tonight are full of knowledge. First, we're going to hear from Dr. Monique Gary. She's going to be speaking about triple negative breast cancer and helping us understand exactly what that is and how is it different from other types of breast cancer. Dr. Gary is the medical director of Grandview Health Pan Cancer Network Cancer Program. She serves as the director of their NAPBC accredited breast program and founded and directs the Cancer Genetics and Risk Assessment Program at Grandview Health. So we're going to hear from one of the top experts in the field. She holds clinical associate faculty positions in surgery in 2 locations, Philadelphia College of Osteopathic Medicine, Penn Medicine, and University of North Texas Health Sciences, Texas Christian University in Fort Worth, Texas. So we are so excited to have a top-notch expert in the particular field to talk to us about triple negative breast cancer. Right after we hear from Dr. Monique Gary, we're going to flow right into our second guest speaker of the evening, and that's Dr. Aisha Chilcote. She's going to address us this evening on the topic of integrative medicine approach to COVID and cancer. So Dr. Chilcote is a neuropathic doctor who earned her doctorate degree from Southwest College of Naturopathic Medicine in Tempe, Arizona. She is the practitioner of alternative medicine and supports a holistic approach to healing. I had to look that up, folks, because I had to learn the type of medicine that Dr. Chilcote practices. So we're going to hear more from her this evening. She has advanced distinction as a certified practitioner from the Institute of Functional Medicine. And so there's more to both of their bios in the program. I did not read all of their accolades. I only wanted to give you just a touch of it this evening so that you'll know right off the bat that we're dealing with top-notch experts. So we're so excited that they're with us this evening. So with no further ado, we want to welcome Dr. Monique Gary. Give her a virtual round of applause, please. Dr. Gary, welcome.
Oh, thank you so very much. Congratulations to all the graduates. I can't think of a better occasion on a Friday night. It's happy hour. We got some things to celebrate today because all of this knowledge, all this advocacy, all this wisdom and compassion is so sorely needed in the field of cancer care, especially, but just health in our community, health and wellness. So again, I am Dr. Monique Gary, and I'm a breast surgeon first and foremost, and an advocate. I am a daughter of a woman who had ovarian cancer 29 and a grandmother with breast cancer bilateral twice. So, you know, cancer has affected me personally, and it informs a lot of why I do what I do. And so I've got a few minutes, and I want to explain what triple negative breast cancer is in really easy to understand terms, because there's nothing worse than going to the doctor or listening to a lecture and you leave and somebody says, well, what did the doctor say? You say, I don't know. This is something about something and receptors and something, cancer and lymph nodes. I have no idea. So we're going to make this real simple. I talk in food. Everybody knows food. So when we talk about breast cancer most times begins in the milk ducts, about 75% of the time. And the milk ducts are the little tubes that carry milk to the nipple. The lobules are the fluffy parts that make the milk. And so if you think about a milk duct like a can of Pillsbury biscuits or crescent rolls, what happens inside that duct, inside that can, or that the cells become abnormal, that dough starts filling up that duct, that can, and all of a sudden it breaks open. And that's the word invasive. So when you talk to people and they say, well, I had invasive ductal carcinoma, that means the abnormal cells grew in the milk duct until the duct broke open. And when that happens, it has the chance to go from that milk duct through the breast into lymphatics or the lymph glands underneath of our arm. And the lymph nodes fight infection and inflammation. They help support our immune system. And once cancer gets there, it can go anywhere through the body. So when we study cancers and we look at, well, what's driving them to grow? We know that for some women, and for the majority of women, their cancers are being driven to grow by hormones like estrogen. There's another one that we look for called progesterone, another female hormone. And there's a third one called HER2, or the human epidermal growth factor. So we look at these cancer cells under the microscope, and we're looking to see, do they have the little stations on top of the cancer cells to receive the signal or the hormone? Well, that's sort of like, do they have a toll booth on the turnpike, right? Because if you got a toll booth, then I know that you're using dollars. Estrogen is your dollar. And so the treatment for these cancers is, well, we do surgery to remove them, but then we give women a pill and we block their estrogen. We take away their dollars so they don't go through more toll booths, so they don't make new cancers grow. But women who have triple negative breast cancer, they don't have any toll booths. They're in the easy pass lane. They're not using dollars. And so that means they can't get things like a pill to block their estrogen because it just wouldn't work. They're not using estrogen. And so triple negative breast cancer is an aggressive subtype of breast cancer that's not driven by hormones. It's about 15 to 30% of all invasive breast cancers, but Black women have a twofold higher prevalence of it, and we have worse outcomes from it than women of European descent. We're more likely to be diagnosed younger with this type of cancer. We're more likely to be diagnosed at stage 3, meaning it's already left the breast and is into the lymph nodes. We are more likely to have tumors that are bigger than 5 centimeters or a golf ball. They're more likely to have spread. And when we look at the treatment differences, we can see that compared with white women, Black women are less likely to get all the standard treatments. They're less likely to get surgery. They're less likely to get chemotherapy. And we know that something has to treat the breast. Something has to treat the whole body to prevent the spread. And if we're not getting chemotherapy and we can't get a pill because it wouldn't work, what are we getting to treat our bodies? And so this is a more aggressive disease, and there's a lot more that we need to understand about why it disproportionately affects us. You go to some websites, they'll say things like, well, it's all socioeconomics, and Black women tend to be poor, and they tend to this, and they didn't breastfeed. And, there are some of those factors that are included, but it's not all socioeconomics. There are factors that include the science of breast cancer, the study of our tumors, the studies of our genes, and we need more research to better understand these things. And sadly, we know that there are barriers that are included even within the medical profession because racial bias in diagnosis and treatment is very, very real. And so we have a lot of work to do. And all of you are hereby charged today with the work of not only educating your church members and your family and your friends, but even your doctors, because they need it too. So what can we do? Our calls to action are many. Number one, we can get screened. We can get screened early and get the right types of screening. And what that means is you got to learn the difference between the different types of screening studies and learn about things like breast density, because Black women tend to have more dense breasts, and mammograms are like static on console TVs. The more static you got, the harder it is to see the picture. So there's certain imaging that might be more appropriate for Black women and women who have dense breasts and younger women, things like MRIs, ultrasounds, as well as mammograms. So we got to learn the difference. We got to educate ourselves and our communities, especially during COVID. You have to know your risk. And what that means is knowing your family history for sure, but also the preventable risk factors. There's some things you can't prevent, like being a woman and getting older. God willing, we'll keep doing both. Being born Black, right? Some things we can't prevent, but there are things that we can work on. And I think our next doctor is going to talk about those things. And I'm so glad that you've included her in this panel today because the information is so important. But talking about obesity and smoking and alcohol and lifestyle changes and things we can do in our diet to increase our body's ability to heal itself. So there's some preventable things that we can do, and you should look into these and talk to your family, talk to your doctor about those things. Learn about stuff like genetic mutations that come along with understanding that family history, and talk about it. Become accountability partners. So don't just talk about it, you got to be about it. Because we know that as Black women and Black men, that we will show up for somebody else. We don't always show up for ourselves, but if we know somebody else is going to be there, we're going to show up. If somebody's counting on us, then we're going to show up. So become accountability partners with people who may be afraid to get their screening, whether it's mammogram or colonoscopy or, prostate exams and other things. We got to show up for our folks, raise our voices in advocacy, in education, discuss our medical histories. We're sick as the secrets that we keep, and we got to talk to our family members about our diagnosis, about what's going on with us. And the last thing is encourage your family members and your friends, your breasties, to get involved in clinical trials. Not all trials are drug trials. Trials can be experimental, but you'll never get less than the standard of care in cancer trials. And the reality is that in the era of personalized medicine, we can't personalize a medicine to a genome we don't understand. And so we know that in order for us to heal us, in order for us to save ourselves, that we got to get involved, and we can no longer afford to say, well, we can't invoke Henrietta Lacks and Tuskegee anymore because they went through those things so that we could have a better clinical trial experience. That's the result of all of that. And when we know that when we're at the table, we're less likely to be on the menu. And so with that, I want to say congratulations to everybody. I'm going to stop here and take any questions if you have them, or you can put them in the chat. I'll be around and answer questions in the chat. And I hope that this is just giving you a little bit of some insight on triple negative breast cancer and just some things you can do about it, because we can feel really helpless sometimes, but there's a lot of work that each and every one of us can do. And so thank you so much for your time. Congratulations, Valarie. Thank you for inviting me, and all the graduates. I wish you so much luck and so many blessings. And I'm so thankful for you.
Wow, Dr. Gray, thank you. Dr. Gary, sorry. My note says Gary, but I'm looking at your name.
It's Gary. Somebody put it in wrong in the registration. It's Gary.
I thought that
Gary,
I was
like Indiana.
I thought, thank you so much, Dr. Gary. That was awesome. If you're like me and you're thinking of questions that you want to ask Dr. Gary, please put them in the chat. We have a designated time in the segment tonight for Q&A, and I don't want you to forget your questions or even comments. Please put them in the chat now so that we kind of hold that place and we can address those questions when we get to that part of the evening. I like what you said, Dr. Gary, about we are as sick as the secrets we keep. And I thought that was such a powerful statement about sharing with our loved ones, sharing with medical professionals what's happening with us, because if we don't, it could kill us, quite frankly, and quite bluntly. So thank you for all that you shared. And Dr. Gary, did I hear you call our friends with breasts, are they breasties? Did I hear that right?
You're going to hear that again, time and time. I think Ricky Fairley coined that phrase that I know of, but absolutely, our breasties are our cancer survivors and advocates. And I call my fellow breast surgeons breasties too, but it's those of us who are in the community and who are doing the work and going through this experience together.
Learned a new term tonight. That was great. I thought I heard right, and I wanted to make sure I did. So thank you so much for the great information that you shared. We're getting ready to turn now and hear from Dr. Chilcote. She's speaking from the topic of integrative medicine approach to COVID and cancer. So a big virtual round of applause to Dr. Chilcote. Welcome.
Thank you, everybody. Can everybody hear me? You guys hear me? Okay. So thank you so much, Valarie, for inviting me to come. And I'm just so excited to be here and to be a part of this panel. One of the things that I wanted to just mention is that I'm a naturopathic doctor. So I think everybody got that right in the poll. So I'm really excited about that. One of the things that I have done is extra additional training in the area of oncology. So there's actually a thing called naturopathic oncology. And that level of training actually allows you to work with people like Dr. Gary, like breast surgeons and radiation oncologists and medical oncologists and all these other professionals that treat cancer, to work alongside with them to see, are there any natural things that can be given to someone? Are there any things natural that can help them in their cancer journey? Are there things that I can take along with chemotherapy? Are there preventative things that I can do? So what I want to do is just kind of tease that out and talk a little bit about lifestyle and environmental factors that can contribute to cancer. And is there anything that we can do about it? Are there things that we can change about our lifestyle? Are there things that we can adjust that could potentially help us to lower some of the risk factors like Dr. Gary was talking about? So I'm going to go into nutrition. I'm going to talk about exercise a little bit. And then I'm also going to talk about supplements. So the first thing is I want to address is this area of stress. So people have stress in their lives. We have stress through family dynamics, through work, through school, through all of these things. But I don't think that we've addressed the impact of what stress has on each and every person's body, and then us collectively as a people. So this amount of stress that we carry in our bodies gets expressed and can be expressed in different ways. And it does lead to dis-ease. And so when we start talking about risk factors and making sure we're not keeping secrets inside, all of these things are going to help to decrease the amount of stress that we carry. The reason why it's important is because the stress hormones can actually stimulate more cancer growth. So we want to make sure we're decreasing stress. So there's different practices people do, there's prayer, there's meditative practices, but basically want to address that impact of stress. The other thing is chronic stress. It can also relate to metastasis, cancer growing. So there are serious consequences to not addressing stress. And when we talk about COVID and what's going on right now with COVID-19, it's like everybody or most people are under stress. A lot of people are dealing with fear, and all of those drivers, I would call them drivers, or things that would contribute to dis-ease in someone's life. This is another reason why we need to work on stress. The second part I want to talk about is nutrition. So I know everybody's so excited about nutrition. Everybody knows, oh, I need to eat better. I need to do better. I need to eat that. I shouldn't have that. But why should you not have that? And what kind of diet should we really be subscribing to? So what I want to do is give you just a couple ideas, a couple of things to think about. Plant-based, I don't know if people know what that means, but this is talking about eating things like live fruits, vegetables, things that are going to be alive to bring life to your cells in your body. So you want to try to choose things that are going to be life-giving as opposed to processed foods, sugary things, things that are filled with a lot of salt, a lot of sodium. So the best way, I don't really have enough time to really address everything with regards to nutrition, but just thinking in terms of plant-based, in terms of organic fruits and vegetables is a great start. Drinking enough water, making sure you're hydrated. So there are just some basic lifestyle factors that can help to contribute to health. The other thing I want to talk about is just some supplement recommendations. So basic recommendations, people ask me, what should I take? I just want to be healthy. I just want to take something. So one of the things I think is really important is vitamin D. This is something that you can have your vitamin D levels just checked with your primary care doctor. Vitamin D has definitely been linked to certain types of cancers like breast and also colon cancer, the risk. So I think that having your vitamin D level checked and then getting on an appropriate vitamin D supplement, the most active form is a vitamin D3, can be very beneficial. There are also things like fish oil, which is a source of something called omega-3. So omega-3s are anti-inflammatory, which help to drive down inflammation in our bodies, because a lot of dis-ease is related to inflammatory foods, inflammatory stress can lead to inflammation. So you hear a lot about inflammation. We have joint pain, all these things. Having enough omega-3s can help to address that and to actually provide you with the daily amount that you need. Our bodies do not naturally make omega-3. So this is why people will either take fish oil, they eat fish, they do ground flax seeds, just to be able to generate enough of those types of good things that we need. And then the next thing I want to talk about, just in my experience in working with patients who have been diagnosed with cancer, as I mentioned, I worked alongside with breast surgeons, medical oncologists, and one of the things that we worked with is trying to help mitigate some of the side effects that people would have. So for example, if someone is going through radiation therapy, or if they're going to be going into surgery or a particular chemotherapy, one of the things that can be done is to provide people with supplement advice so that the things that they're being recommended are not going to interfere in any way to any of their traditional treatment. I think this is really important because a lot of times I will see patients that will say, well, I don't want to take any drugs. I'm not doing anything that they are giving me, and I'm only going natural. Well, when people come to me, I still have to know, what does the research show and what should be done? What is the right thing to do? And so what I try to do is address the natural concerns of someone, but also give them the scientific information in ways they can understand, and let them know, look, this is a plan that we can come up with. We can still also give you some natural therapies that are going to go along with your conventional treatment that are not going to interact. And so everybody's happy. So that's one thing. And then the other thing I want to say is the reason why this is so important, because we do know that there's a lot of side effects that people can experience when they're going through cancer treatment. It could be GI upset. It could be, their blood cell count is low. They're not able to sleep. They're not able to eat. Their hair falls out. So there's a lot of natural things that we can do that coincide with someone's cancer treatment. I'm not sure how much more time I have, but the only other thing I want to say is just to talk about just improving quality of life. So there are environmental things that people should be aware of. There's a website that's called Environmental Working Group, has a wonderful website. It's a great resource. It will actually link you to show you things that have been linked to cancer, things like cosmetics, dry cleaning, smoking, eating meats that have been charred when you're barbecuing, things like that. So that's just another piece of information that you can use to educate yourself. Thank you all so much. I think I'm over my time.
No, actually, Dr. Chilcote, you're right on time. So thank you so much. My ears perked up right at the end. What was that you said about eating meats that have been charred on the grill? What was that last bit?
Yes, so charred meats, you know, when everybody likes, like my brother-in-law, I hate to use him as an example, but he loves to char that meat around the chicken, anything he grills. That's actually linked as a carcinogen. So we don't really want to encourage that. As tasty as it is, I'm from Kansas City, so people love burnt ends, which means you have it on there twice. Not a good look. So things like that, we can start to educate ourselves with, and we can start to make some healthier lifestyle changes. Thank
Ooh,
you.
Dr. Chilcote, you just hurt my feelings because my family knows that my links or sausages or hot dogs need to be good and charred before I'll eat them. So now my feelings are really hurt, but I appreciate the information. I'm so glad you shared that because I didn't understand that before. And just what you said about the unaddressed stress and how it can increase risk factors and bring on dis-ease. I like the way that you broke that word up. It was so valuable for us to understand what stimulates cancer growth, including my charred hot dogs. I'm going to have to give those up now, lighten up on the char, but it's good for us to understand the things that are drivers. That's another key word from what you shared tonight. So thank you, Dr. Chilcote, for that information.
Thank you so much.
Again, I hope that you're flooding the chat with tons of questions, comments for Dr. Chilcote that need to be addressed. She definitely wants to be able to answer your questions. So please put those questions in the chat. Let's use this time now to bring on another pop quiz, bring on another poll as we prepare for our next set of speakers. So Javen, if you will, share with us our next poll questions. And again, no pressure, just to understand where you are in terms of your knowledge. All right, keep those answers coming in. I see we have a few more folks responding. Let's give another 10 seconds or so, 10, 15 seconds. I say no pressure, but then I give you 15 seconds. So do your best. All right, we're at the final countdown. Get your last question answered if you can before Javen ends the poll, and we'll see where we are in terms of results, see what your knowledge is going into our next portion of the session tonight. All right, thank you for all of you that did respond to our questions. Many of you know what a clinical trial is, 93% of you this evening, so that's great. Great numbers there, already familiar. Most people in a clinical trial get a placebo or sugar pill. 77% of you feel like that's false, that many of clinical trial participants are getting the actual drug being tested, if you will. When you're on a clinical trial, there's no hope. Well, none of you believed that. And so I'm sure our medical professionals are glad to know their mindset is regarding clinical trials. I would share my health concerns with my pastor. Most of you said yes to that. So I know that Pastor Godby's going to be interested in that particular result. We'll get to meet him in a second here. And then finally, I would participate in health education and screenings in my community. And most of you are willing to say yes to that at 93%. So great poll result. helps our speakers know where you all stand in terms of clinical trials and sharing information. And I'm glad to hear that many of you would share your health information, because we just learned that it's important to share our medical information with the right individuals. So let's talk about our next set of speakers that are prepared to address us this evening. We're going to hear from Ricky Farley. She is actually a stage 3A triple negative breast cancer survivor thriver. So we're going to get to hear from someone with direct understanding of what it means to thrive through having 3A triple negative breast. Ricky Farley is the co-founder and CEO of Touch, the Black Breast Cancer Alliance. She co-founded and she serves as the CEO of Touch. I mentioned that. And the overall goal of Touch is to reduce the mortality rate for Black women. She also founded and serves as the co-host of The Doctor Is In. It's a weekly live web series on blackdoctor.org. So we're going to get to hear from Ricky this evening. We're so excited about that. We'll also hear from Kirsten Ingram. She's a research program leader in the Office of Health Equity at Duke Cancer Institute. She has nearly 20 years of leadership achievements encompassing North Carolina as well as internationally in the Republic of Botswana Defense Force and the Republic of Malawi Defense Force. So she's going to speak to us this evening about COVID and the community. And so we'll get to hear her standpoints on that. Well, from Ricky Farley, we'll hear about breast cancer and the community. So our second portion of the program this evening is really community focused. And so that's a perfect segue into getting to hear from Bishop Ronald L. Godby. He's going to speak to us tonight about COVID and the church. Bishop Godby is my bishop. And he serves as the lead pastor of River Durham Church in Durham, North Carolina, 4900 Prospectus Drive. Come and visit. He is also the author of a book, Why Leaders Fail. And what's interesting about Bishop Godby and the River Church is that under his leadership, the River Durham has supported church attendees and the local community by hosting various health educational events. So he's equipped to speak to us tonight from the standpoint of COVID and the church. And the community events that he hosts at the River Church are age sensitive, they're relevant, they're culturally conscious, and they also include a collaboration with 50 Hoops, our host tonight. So we're excited about this next group of speakers focusing on the community. So let's start with Ricky Farley. Let's give her a big round of a virtual applause. Ricky.
How do I mute myself? Thank you so much for having me here. I'm so excited to be here. So excited to support Val. I love you, Val. And Dr. Mo, who's my co-host on The Doctor Is In. So I am a stage 3A survivor of triple negative breast cancer. I'll tell you a little bit about my story. I was diagnosed in 2011. I had pretty aggressive breast cancer. I had a double mastectomy by choice. I had 6 rounds of chemo, very aggressive, 6 weeks of radiation. And then a year to the day of my diagnosis almost, it came back in my chest wall. My doctor told me I had 2 years to live. I said, no, you don't understand. I can't do that. I have a daughter in college that I have to pay for her education. So me, you, and God need to work this out. I went on a drug that wasn't in a clinical trial at the time, but it was experimental for triple negative. And I did more chemo, and 4 months later, the cancer disappeared, and I will be a 10-year survivor in October. So I'm very blessed, and I know I'm a miracle, but I know that God left me here to do the work of advocacy, and I've been an advocate for breast cancer ever since. And when we talk about breast cancer for Black women, it is very much stress related, which is such a good thing to touch on, Dr. Isha. And I do believe my breast cancer was very much stress related. I was in a crazy marriage and had lots of people dependent on me, and it's got me sick, I believe. So I work really hard to help women understand not only do you have to get rid of the cancers in your body, but the cancers in your life. And so I did that. I did a lot of crazy things when I was sick. I really worked to get all of the cancers out of my life. So I divorced my husband of 30 years. Whoops. I quit my business partners. I was in business with 2 partners, and I sold my big house in the suburbs and I moved to the beach, to a little 1-bedroom condo. So I got rid of all the cancers and really changed my life to get the stress out of my life. When I was sick, though, I remember one day after my first chemo, when I wasn't feeling so great, calling one of my prayer warriors saying, I don't know what to pray for. I called her about 4 a.m. and she's like, pray for healing. What's wrong with you? But I knew that I couldn't pray for healing, that I had to pray for God's will to be done. Whatever it was, I knew I was sort of jumping off a cliff with God. I didn't know where I was going to land or if I was going to land, but I knew that I had to really stand on my faith and relinquish my faith to God to, heal me or whatever was going to happen, right? But I know that my experience and my journey has been all God-led for the 10 years that I've been alive, everything that I've done. And what I'm doing now is like building an organization. Thank God for Val, who gave me 501c3 status to start our foundation. And I wouldn't have been able to do it without her, to really be able to reach out to women, to reach out to pharmaceutical companies, and hopefully change the game on how people feel about clinical trials. And you can see from the poll that you guys did, a lot of people say they know about clinical trials, but when you talk about whether there's a sugar pill, there isn't. So we have a lot of education to do in our community about how a clinical trial works, what it means to do that for yourself and for your own health, and what it means to do that for our community. And we work diligently every day to work with pharmaceutical companies to help them explain that despite a lot of their effort, a lot of money being spent, and a lot of good intentions, they are not approaching Black women in the right way to engage us in clinical trials. And I'm not a scientist, I'm not a doctor. I have a 30-year marketing career, and I'm trying to sort of take my strategic acumen that I've learned over the years and apply it to the disciplines of advocacy and convince pharmaceutical companies to change the game on how they talk to Black women, how they engage Black women, to help us understand the importance and the necessity of clinical trials. Just for a little background, Black women have a 42% higher mortality rate of breast cancer, which is crazy. Black women who've had breast cancer have a 71% higher risk of death. Black women have a 39% recurrence rate, and Black women under 35 get breast cancer at twice the rate, die at 3 times the rate. Those are devastating statistics. We get a different disease from white women and we are dying, and that is not acceptable. And so the only way that we're going to learn and change how we are treated is to do more clinical trials, get a better understanding of the science, and build drugs that work for our Black bodies. Because right now the drugs, we don't know if the drugs work because we don't participate in research. And so we're working really hard to help Black women understand the importance of research, help pharma companies understand the importance of speaking to Black women and engaging Black women in the right way so that we can get the science that we need to save lives. So through my process, I've had, I started a little club when I was sick of all my friends that prayed for me. I had so many prayer warriors and we still work to this day. So I really believe that I'm here because of a lot of prayer from my friends and my family. And I'm here because I got rid of the stress in my life. I got rid of the other cancers. I'm here because I know God left me here to do this work. And I'm so honored to be able to do it with my precious Valarie and my precious Dr. Mo. So thank you, and I'll take any questions at the end.
Awesome. Thank you, Ricky Fairley. Thank you for that great information. As you have questions, please put them in the chat so we can address them during the designated time for Q&A. That was so phenomenal what you shared, Ricky. There were a lot of nuggets that I got, but when you admonished us to get rid of the cancers in our lives, that was so powerful because we don't have to have a diagnosis to do that, do we? We should be doing that on a regular basis. So
don't wait till you're sick. Don't wait till you're sick.
That's right. Don't wait until you're sick. That's something we can do on a daily basis. Very good. And what you said about the importance of participating in research and clinical trials, especially as Black women, how key that is, that really hit home for me. So if you're like me and you're getting all kind of ideas and nuggets in your head from what Ricky just shared, please add any comments or questions to the chat and we can address those during our Q&A. Thank you so much for sharing tonight. Let's
Thank you.
continue on with our focus on community, and let's hear from Kirsten Ingram with COVID and community. Big round of applause virtually. Welcome, Kirsten. Glad to have you tonight.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here. First and foremost, congratulations, Valarie. Cannot think of anyone that deserves this honor more than you. Thank you for all that you do in the community and for the members that you serve. As well as thank you, Pat and Ed Sanders, for all the work that you do in the community over the years. I'll always remember some of the initial programs that we've done together in regards to sharing information, the importance in regards to clinical trials with the community, as well as the support and assistance with the entire 50 Hoops community. A little bit about the Office of Health Equity. Thank you again, Valarie, for inviting the office here to share a little bit about what we do and the work that we do in regards to patient navigation and being community-facing patient navigators. The vision of our office is to excel as the leader in reducing cancer disparities through authentic community engagement and partnerships. This includes the delivery of a seamless cancer care, which includes the provision of outstanding and innovative research. And we also provide resources to achieve the optimal health and changing in a diverse environment in regards to our patient outcomes. The mission is to reduce cancer disparities and promote health equity within the Duke Cancer Institute's catchment area through strategic initiatives that integrate the following core areas. That includes community outreach and engagement, community-facing patient navigation and services, as well as health education disparities, information, and clinical trials education and workplace diversity. In our office is led by Dr. Angelo Moore. He is the program manager for the office, and we have a team of approximately 7 individuals in the office that support the efforts and the work in the Office of Health Equity. We do have a few people that will be coming onto our team soon, so we're very excited about that. As well as a couple of the programs that we do in the community include multiple community engagement events. It's been an honor and a pleasure to be able to help and assist with various health fairs, community activities, as well as providing education and serving on health community boards and committees in our area, as well as, most importantly, community-facing patient navigation. So what exactly is that? Well, community-facing navigation includes Duke Cancer Institute has adopted patient navigation, which is something that we do system-wide. The Office of Health Equity has community-facing navigators, which provide education and resources to community members and patients who seek cancer screening and treatment. Some of the initiatives we have in the office include work, of course, the work with breast cancer, as well as with colon cancer, cervical cancer, and the other screenable cancers. Some of the things that we have done, because at the end of the day, we have seen across the board that cancer screenings have decreased initially at the beginning of the pandemic. Information and there's a lot of literature out there, especially with the National Cancer Institute, that talks about, in terms of cancer screenings, while COVID-19 created obstacles for ladies to go and to receive their screenings, such as the mammogram, it also provided opportunities, such as different ways that we can reach out to the community to provide education, how in regards to the ways that you can prevent breast cancer, as well as to educate community members about breast cancer, such as forums as the webinars that we're on, as well as ways that we can reach out and to help to assist with the screening activities to get a young lady scheduled for her mammogram and working with her. In that regard, we have conducted a couple of monthly webinars, which we call part of our virtual series. One of our virtual series was entitled Cervical Cancer, Early Detection Saves Lives. And in that, we did have a provider from BSAP, actually one of the leaders in regards to the BSAP program, provide a presentation And in that presentation, it was really nice and it was really holistic in providing that education to the community about cervical cancer screenings, as well as information in regards to the BSEP program as a whole. Later, following the presentation, I will go ahead and I will put the link that we have to the YouTube channel so that you'll be able to see the presentation as well. Later in August, we also will be having another virtual webinar series entitled What's in Your Blood? A look into leukemia, lymphoma, and multiple myeloma. And that presentation will be on April 19th. We would love for you to join us, and I will place the registration link in the chat as well. One thing that you may hear a lot about in regards to the patient navigation piece is the to and through model. And that is the importance of making sure that the community, first and foremost, are educated about the cancer. Because how can you know that you need to go get a screening if no one's ever talked to you about it in the first place, if you do not know the screening guidelines? Then following that, now that you're educated, let's go ahead. Do you have a primary care provider? Do you have someone that you're talking to on a regular basis in regards to what are your unique needs in regards to your healthcare? And so we also have ways where we can link community members with a primary care provider. And that was through our patient navigators. And again, it's definitely tailored towards the person's unique situation. Because at the end of the day, your primary care provider is the one that's going to help you manage your care as well. And that includes your cancer screenings. It would be important to note, and I'd be remiss if I did not take this opportunity to share, in our office, we do have a bilingual patient navigator. So our patient navigator is fluent in Spanish. And so for young ladies that only speak Spanish, or Spanish is their primary language that they speak, we do have a patient navigator that works with them so that they can ask any questions they may have, as well as get scheduled for the appropriate appointments. Being mindful of our time, wanted to share just a little bit in regards to, when you sit back and you think about COVID-19, things are changing before you know it. I mean, things and what we thought was going to be our new normal as of last week changed as of this Monday, and has changed in many states as of 3 o'clock this afternoon, right? So what does that mean? How can you feel comfortable going out to get your mammogram? How can you feel comfortable going out to get your needed cancer screenings or to go to your primary care providers? And the biggest thing is to, first and foremost, always stay connected to your medical team. Make sure that you're in constant contact with them and with their guidances for you to go to receive your cancer screenings, to attend your appointments. If you are out, a lot of medical facilities require you to wear a mask. And while it seems like it's something that's so silly, the nice thing about us being girls, and ladies, please raise your hand. How many of you have customized your face mask to your outfit? And you just put your mask on, right? And if you want some bling, we're gonna put some bling on with it, right? Or if you want it to match your outfit, you can put one of these on over it, right? But at the end of the day, you have to be mindful, because when you're delaying getting your screening, you are delaying when you are going to be diagnosed, and you are just it's there. And you have to find out, the earlier you find out, the earlier detection is going to make sure that things are diagnosed at an earlier stage where you have more options for treatments. Thank you so much for your time. Again, congratulations to Valarie for all that you do. Thank you. And also, I'd be remiss if I did not share, men can have breast cancer. Thank you so much for that, Dr. Moore. That is very true. Men can get breast cancer. So it is very important that we talk about the importance of both men and women to talk with their medical providers in regards to breast cancer screenings. Thank you again for your time, and thank you, Val, for all that you do.
Thank you, Kirsten. Great information. Thank you for sharing with us tonight. I like what you said about delayed screening means delayed diagnosis. That is so key. And Kirsten, if you wouldn't mind sharing, what was the date of the next monthly webinar, What's in Your Blood? Was that August 19th?
Yes, and I will place the link for the registration in the chat, as well as the link where you're able to see the information that we've presented in previous webinars. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So now let's, with that information under our belts about COVID and the community, let's turn our attention to COVID and the church. Let's give a big round of applause to Bishop Ronald L. Godby. Virtual applause. Welcome, Dr. Godby. How about that?
I'll take it. Thank you, Oprah. I mean, Carmen, I really appreciate you. To Valarie, we love you, and we wouldn't be who we are without you. You are certainly the foundation, and you are the person who is the engine that makes the River Church move forward. So I want to talk a little bit about how we think as a church. Number one, I'm a theologian, so I can't use the language of the doctors and the wonderful physicians who have spoken, but I can use the language of a theologian. There's something called the watchmaker argument, and it's in theology, it's called the teleological argument, which means that there's intelligent design and an intelligent designer. That's very important to understand because that's the philosophy and the thrust that we use to guide us as we are meeting the needs of our community. Number one, to provide something that has an intelligent design because it has an intelligent designer. When it came to COVID, it was, of course, something that none of us had ever seen before. None of us had ever lived through a pandemic, and certainly we hadn't, as a church, existed in that space ever before. So we had to come up with an intelligent design for our community. Again, remember, it's the watchmaker argument. So that means that you have to move with intricate parts and intricate pieces, and you have to find a way to put them all together. Well, that's how we thought about this. How do we take these intricate parts and intricate pieces and put them all together to provide an answer for our community? So we did just that. We reached into our intricate parts and our intricate pieces, the people who play a role in the medical community. I'm so grateful that we are not a church that views ourselves as separate entities, but we try to build a bridge because we see ourselves as one and the same. So we reach to our medical community through people like Valarie Worthy, who again helps us do the reach. I've worked with so many of you who are on this call because we have, again, given great attention to build that bridge between our communities to function as one. And so what we did was we gathered the best and the brightest, and gratefully, a lot of that comes from our church, and we are blessed and privileged to have that resting within our church. We didn't want to just equip and educate our church, we wanted to equip and educate our community. So we took these intricate pieces and we pulled them together. We did forums and we provided our platform to give space and voice to the address that our community needed at the time. As many of you know, in the Christian community and the faith-based community at large, there are a number of different theological barriers that get in the way of us sometimes reaching the operative health goals that we need to reach. So we had to do a lot of debunking of stereotypes. We had to tear down a lot of myths and misconceptions. And we had to provide the awareness and the opportunity for our congregation to understand the things beyond the nuances of their theology. So we had a lot on our plate, and praise God, we had the people that could help us do it. We created and devised a plan that was not just for the River Church, but was a plan that could help faith-based communities all over the nation exist in this space. We crafted and created a very intelligent design. We discovered how to get people in our sanctuary and out in a healthy and effective way. Thank God, through the COVID era, we've been open since August of last year. And to date, we have not suffered a severe outcome under COVID because of the genius that we pulled together in that moment. We provided not only information, but a safe environment, and also information that could be passed on to other faith-based institutions, of which we proudly did. And we were able to get involved and to help them have the same opportunity and the same information. Not only did we develop a group for our church, but that group went to other churches and helped share the information. And because of that, a number of them are open to date. And so we continue to plug away, monitoring our gains and our outcomes, always keeping our hand on the pulse and always committing ourselves to CDC guidelines and the science that would govern us. Again, we don't believe that these are separate entities. We believe that God gifted us and gave us these great doctors who have just spoken before us. All of this collective genius is a gift from God, and we wanted to leverage it on behalf of the people of God. And so that's what we were able to do. I'm proud to say that we developed a system that helped keep our community safe, helped keep the people who were connected to the River Church safe. We had a number of doctors come in and assess our systems to see, was this something that we just created in our minds, or was it something that we could give a full-throated endorsement to our congregation? And we're glad to say that we did. We have had to reach in a number of ways, not to just tend to our church, but to tend to our community. So for those who were not experiencing favorable outcomes, I'm glad to say that we were able to open our church and give address to that to our community, to meet them at the point of their need and even at the point of their grief. And so I'm extremely proud to say that I pastor some of the greatest people on the planet who make me look like an intelligent designer. I'm really not. It's just the people who surround me, the collective genius that we're blessed to be able to gather and assemble and to put a stamp on it and say that the faith-based community does matter. And so I pray that you would take away from this moment of understanding that we do not have to live in separate islands, and we don't have to, ostracize each other and act like these are either or, but they are one and the same. And if we learn to continue to work together and continue to build bridges between these two communities that for some time the conventional thought was that we don't belong in the same space, in the same arena, then we can get greater gains and outcomes for our community. So I'm extremely grateful to be able to sit in this moment again to say that I've served with most of these people who are on this call today. And because of that, we've saved lives. Because of that, we protected people. And because of that, we have all reached our goal, and that is to care for broken humanity. So I'm extremely grateful for the work that Pat and Ed have done and for allowing us to call ourselves your partners. The River Church is better because of the work that you do. And we are all better because of people like Elder Valarie Worthy. And so our church is so proud of you today. We just stand in this moment enveloped in pride, not just because of the accomplishment, but knowing that the work that you so feverishly commit yourself to, you can see the gains and you can see the outcomes. And so we will continue as a church to commit ourselves to walking people through this very difficult moment, for not only being a resource and a reservoir of wisdom for them, but we will continue to commit ourselves to the science, to the address that is given to us by our government, and we will continue to safeguard the people, but still provide them the faith and the hope that they need to make it through this most difficult time. So I'm extremely grateful for 50 Hoops and for all that it has done and for all that it will continue to do. I thank you, Valarie, for putting me as a thorn between all of these beautiful roses today and for letting them shine before I got up to say my little spiel. So I'm grateful for each of you. Our prayers will continue to cover you. We stand with open arms to reach our community, to all of the doctors who have presented, to all of those who have spoken. Kirsten, you are my friend and you are an amazing woman of God. We just want to continue to work with you so we can continue to make a difference here in our city. God bless each and every one of you. Thank you for our time of sharing.
Thank you, Bishop Godby. How awesome that the River Church in Durham has led the way by being able to reopen its doors successfully since August of last year, when most businesses and certainly most churches were not ready to open and function in that way. So we applaud your leadership and the efforts of the River Durham. So thank you so much for being here, Bishop Godby, and for sharing. So I want to be mindful of the time. And as I look through the chat, most of the questions that have been asked have already been answered. I think there was one that I didn't see an answer to, and forgive me if I missed it. but the question was, what is the survival rate of triple negative breast cancer among Black women? I'll just pose that question. I don't believe I saw an answer in the chat. Hopefully I'm not mistaken, but if any of our speakers tonight that will quickly answer that, please. The survival rate of triple negative breast cancer among Black women was a question in the chat. So feel free to unmute yourselves and answer that for one of our attendees tonight.
This is Ricky. I will look that up. I don't know it offhand. I don't know that we have that stat, but I think we do have like a 5-year survival rate stat, which I'll look for real quickly.
Yeah, I think right after that question, Dr. Gary put in some study information on the overall survival. I don't know. She sent that about 6 o'clock. In some studies, overall survival, 83% in white women, all stages of triple negative breast cancer at 5 years. Black women is 76%. And then when spread to the lymph nodes, she has it at 65% at 5 years for white women, but it's less for Black women.
That's what I just found as well, 77% for 5 years, but less for Black women. Yeah, I think the issue too is that we tend to recur more prevalently and more aggressively. We get it at a younger age, and we don't identify it until it's really late stages. So that's what makes it so severe. But our recurrence rate is really high. So for overall breast cancer, it's 39% higher than white women. So for triple negative, it's probably twice that. So it's pretty aggressive. You don't want to get this nasty disease. The good news is that this week, a drug was approved. The first drug for early stage triple negative was approved by the FDA, and it's Keytruda. It's a Merck drug that's been around for about 8 years for lung cancer. It was approved not too long ago for metastatic triple negative. There are 3 drugs for metastatic triple negative, but for third line, meaning you can't take it till you're almost dead, right? But this week we have some amazing news. It's the first time we've ever had a therapy specifically for triple negative. The one thing about triple negative is you may have heard that breast cancer, you can take a pill for 5 years to prevent it from recurrence. We don't have a drug. We're the only breast cancer subtype that doesn't have the drug to prevent recurrence. So that's why it's also so fatal. The fact that we now have Keytruda as a therapy for early stage is a miracle cure. So thank you, God, for that.
Yeah.
Thank you for that sobering information. Thank you for sharing that. As we get ready to end our program, we're out of time, unfortunately, but please, if you have a burning question that was not typed in earlier, please type that in. I'm sure that one of our experts here will respond and get back with you. What an awesome evening of sharing information, insight. I'm so grateful to each and every one of the speakers that shared their gift of knowledge with us tonight. And I thank you for all of you attendees for being a part of tonight and the celebration of our graduates. So I'm going to turn now over to Valarie Worthy to summarize our time together tonight, make some acknowledgements, and close our event. Thank you so much.
Okay. Oh my, this was just awesome. Can we just applaud everybody and our participants? Man, this was more than I could ever have hoped, dreamed, or even written into a script. It was rich with knowledge, and you guys just touched on everything that, even as a patient navigator, that my patients often ask about. I want to thank Carmen. Oh God, you did a tremendous job. Just you're such a natural, Carmen, such a natural. Dr. Mo, Dr. Chilcote, who else? Ricky, love you. Kirsten, Bishop, I love you. I'll see you tomorrow. Who else? Did I miss anybody else? Did I get everybody? God, it seems like we had like tons of speakers because it was so much information. Our next thing is to make sure that we all stay together. I can see Touch partnering with the River and partnering with Duke and my home church of Ahoskie, that we have representation there. So northeast part of North Carolina, it's just so much good work that we can do. And even tomorrow, I have to put a plug out for what we're going to do tomorrow at the River Church. we're having a backpack event, which then we've tagged on a health fair. So we'll do screenings, and then guess what? We are doing COVID vaccinations. So information continues to flow, and we continue to make as much resources that we have available. Pat and Ed, I cannot thank you enough. This has been like tremendous. I've loved this. I love you guys. And this will not be the last time that we are together. We're going to take this show on the road. Right, Ricky? Right, Mo? And we're going to do this because this information is too good for us to keep it here. But it needs to go, as God says, in the hedges and highways and byways, so that we can really make a difference in the lives of many, many people. I think to much is given, much is required. My much was my life. Your much is the education that you received this evening. And so now it is required that then we go out and share this information with everybody. So thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of the evening. And God bless you. And we will see each other again. Again, thank you so much. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Take care. God bless everybody.
Bye. Wonderful program.
Great.
Don't worry about it. We'll get somebody later. Just that screenshot. Call Val. Well, that's what you love for us. God, that's wonderful. God.
Jada, thank you so much. Thank you.
You are most welcome. I'm happy to help.